Podcast City Network. You're listening to The Everett Lee Show.
Welcome to Everett Lee Show. I'm the Everett Lee. Today on the program, my guest is a 20-plus year veteran, professional wrestler, trainer, John Moxley, Eli Drake, Sami Callihan, Hardcore Heather Owens, and Shawna Reed come to mind when I mention my guest that's on the program today. Let's throw it up, throw it down for none other than Cody freaking Hawk. How you doing there?
Doing well, man. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Hey, I'm broadcasting live from my bed, so you'll have to excuse me. I'm just getting home from a long day of work and some training, and it's really the only place I want to be right now.
I hear you. Just after a long day, that's the place I'd like to be. Just after a long day, just kick back and relax, man. After a long work day, just working a 9-to-5 job and putting content out here with my show. And since you mentioned about training, I did like the post that you put up on your Facebook with the ring, FGW ring tore down, and then you had it put back up, and then you were timing yourself there.
Yep.
I thought that was
I may
cool.
do that again tomorrow, actually.
Oh yeah? Yeah. Have you beat your time yet?
Well, I haven't done it since that last time, and I have a really old ring. It's from the 70s. It's an old studio ring. It's old wood frame with a spring in the middle. I've done a bunch of upgrades to it and stuff, but still it needs it's very temperamental and it needs a lot of maintenance. So after I train in it for a couple of days, like it needs to be took apart, reset, put back together, or else it starts looking a little ugly.
That's pretty good. You're keeping your skills sharp there. I know with this lockdown, man, it's affected everyone in some type of shape or form, because I know as a performer you're not able to get in the ring there, and I know it's just you're bitten at the chops to get back in the ring like everybody else I've talked to here in the last few weeks. But what else you been doing with your time since everyone's been on lockdown?
Well, I mean, I'm still essential, so I work every day. My other half, Shawna, she works every day, so I try to schedule myself so that I work the kind of quasi the same hours that she works, so that I can spend time with her when possible. And we're both I don't know, because we live together, we sleep in the same bed together. I don't feel the least bit worried going to the gym and training with her, and because I'm lucky enough to have my own training school, have my own ring, while we haven't been able to do any shows or the things that we really want to do or train with the rest of our friends or anything, at least her and I have been able to go to the FGW arena and get in the ring and put in the hours and the work. We go Monday through Thursday, and we spend an hour and a half in there, and we work our butts off, and then call it a day and go home. And sometimes time gets away from me, and I'll end up being there 2.5 hours, whatever. Just if it's good and we're doing it and it feels good and right, then that's that.
That's amazing, man. It's good that you're staying in shape and you're working in the ring and keeping fresh. No ring rust there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like that. I know when I talked a few weeks ago, I talked to Justin Dream. He did the same thing. He put a ring up there at his house there so he can not have any ring rust on him, which I think is amazing, man, because just staying active, working out, and I noticed a lot of people's been doing that, and that's great because you're taking care of yourself, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, for the first 2 or 3 weeks of the shutdown, we didn't do much. We did pretty much like everybody else did. We sat around, we sulked, we buried our heads, thought, oh God, what are we going to do? And then I had my one day where I hit my brick wall and I was about to have a meltdown. And I don't know, I just came to this point in my brain where I can't change any of this. I can't fix any of this. The only thing I can do is get myself back to where I need to be. So when they give us the green light, I can hit the ground running. I've always prided myself on having amazing cardio. And, as far as anybody in our company or anybody in the surrounding areas, when it comes to cardio, I could run circles around people. And I know during the shutdown when we first went back to the school and started doing stuff, I started training with a bandana tied around my face, which cut my wind in half. And I was just, it was unreal how much I had lost, how much of my cardio was gone. And the same with Shawna, hers was shot too. And so we just been really doing some seriously heavy cardio drills and some wrestling too, but I'd say 75% of what we're doing is just heavy cardio and blowing each other up and breathing hard and rest for a few minutes and get back in and go at it again.
That's amazing. That's awesome that you're doing that and doing the cardio, because that's one of the most important things when you do work out and you train is the cardio. And with cardio and training, your career as a wrestler, it's pretty interesting looking at your career and looking at where you started at and the promotions that you worked for, because a lot of the guests I've talked to, I'd look up their matches and I always come across you in a match with who I was talking to here on my show. I always come across Cody Hawk. I've seen a lot of your footage here in the last few weeks of different matches, no matter if I was talking with Shawna or if I was talking with Mark Magnum, or I come across stuff with Ryan Michaels. There's Cody Hawk. There's Cody Hawk right there. Even Ripper Blackheart, I pulled up a match and I was talking with him about this match he did. And then he was outside ringside there supporting you in a tag team match. There's Cody Hawk. There's a lot of footage and stuff I've come across, which I'm kept diving in deeper and deeper, looking at matches and stuff, because it's amazing just your body of work that you've done in professional wrestling and even as a trainer. But how did that all start out for you when you got into wrestling?
Well, I never set out to be a trainer. That was never my goal in life. My goal was to be a wrestler. My goal was to, just like everybody else, hopefully do well enough to make it to the WWE and make some money and be able to retire from it. And and obviously that didn't work out quite the way I wanted it to. And as far as the training goes, way back, I want to say 97-ish, 98-ish. It was just it was starting to be like a busy time for wrestling, and the HWA, the promotion that I started with, we started to do a lot of stuff. There was the MTV True Life, I'm a Pro Wrestler special. There was a 2020 special. There was an MSNBC special. There was several magazines. So lots of stuff was happening. And the guy that was my trainer, Les Thatcher, he was starting to become busier and busier with all these different media things that he was doing. So myself and a couple other guys, he would just sort of have us run class, and we would do the same drills that he did. We would run the same training stuff that he normally ran at class, and we would get through all the workouts, and it would just sort of be me and a couple other guys that was leading everybody else. And as time went on, as things started to change, and we ended up with a developmental contract it started first with WCW. We had a 1-year contract with WCW, and that was from 2000 to 2001. And then HWA got a developmental contract with WWF from 2001 to 2002. And during that time frame, from July 2001 to July 2002, WWF sent us every single wrestler that got bought out in the buyouts of ECW and WCW that they were not going to use on TV. So, I mean, we got Mike Sanders, we got Jamie Noble, we got Kaz Hayashi, Jimmy Yang, Lash LaRue, like just this amazing list of people. They had also just shut down the Memphis developmental territory, and they sent us 6 guys from there, which was Rosie and Umaga, Charlie and Russ Haas, Lance Cade, and Steve Bradley. Then we had the ECW guys, so we had Raven and Justin Credible and Tommy Dreamer, and just an amazing array of talent ended up at HWA. All those guys were required to come to training Monday through Friday and train in the mornings. I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning till 2 in the afternoon with Les, sometimes Dr. Tom, various other coaches that WWE would send down. And I was one of the few non-contract talents that they let train with them. And so we still had our whole class of non-contracted talent that we had all along. So Les sort of put me in charge of those guys, and I would go to the day class and train there, and then I'd come to the night class and I would train all the people there in the evening class. So as time went on, I did more and more of the training work, and it just sort of became a thing. And then in 2002, WWE pulled the contract out of HWA, and at that point, Les became kind of very detached from what we were doing. So I started working on a plan to buy him out, and then in 2003, I ended up buying him out, and so that meant I was, full-time booker, full-time promoter, full-time trainer, owner of the company. So, I had a couple business partners. One that you have either talked to or you're going to, Jackson Breeze. We just that was it. I started training guys, and and I've been very fortunate to have a pretty long list of talents come through my training class that did very well for themselves. So my reputation as a trainer has grown, but largely because I had such a great cast of characters that came through my camp.
Right. You've had quite a bit there, especially with the HWA days. I was pulling up footage when I was talking to Jackson Breeze, and when I found out his involvement with HWA, because I asked him about promotions and stuff, and he said, "You don't really know much about me," and I said, "I don't." And he he gave me a list of promotions in HWA there. So I looked at HWA, and I couldn't believe all the stuff that I found, like with HWA. And one of the things I found was when you were in HWA, you feuded with John Moxley quite a bit, man. And I got into watching that footage of you guys with the rivalry you would have there in HWA, and I love it. I love what you guys did there. And I did pull up a couple matches, as I mentioned here. One with you and John Moxley at the Cyber Clash 2006 in the steel cage match, man. I loved how when the bell rang, you just went after him, and you just went, because that story there with Moxley at that time, from what I gathered watching the footage of you, it was just, you wanted to tear each other apart. Really good story, and I got into it, especially with the finish of the match and stuff. I mean, that's some great shit, man. That's some really great shit.
The funny thing about that is we feuded for a year before we got to that cage match, and HWA had never had a cage match before. Internet pay-per-views weren't really a thing yet. Like, I didn't even know about it. I literally went to one of my little techie guys that wrestled for me, and I was like, "Hey, man, is there any way we can film a show and put it on the internet and charge people to watch it?" And he was like, "Let me work on this." So I really think we were one of the very first iPay-per-views that ever happened. And as far as John, he was actually my roommate. He lived with me. His manager, Helena Heavenly, she lived with me too. We all shared a place together. And, John and I, we feuded for a full year. He started off as a baby face, and I was, a baby face too, but over time he developed into a heel, and, just kind of the same John Moxley you see today on AEW is the same kind of character that he portrayed back then. And our styles and our in-ring chemistry was just very good. So I was just like, and at that time, I was, one of the stronger characters in and around our area. And, and from the first day I met John and saw what he brought to the table wrestling-wise and his knowledge for the business, I was like, this kid's going to make a lot of money someday. He's so, it was very easy for us to have the matches that we had and the storyline. We'd sit at home, we'd have a few drinks, we'd talk ideas, bounce thoughts off each other, and then we'd go to the HWA arena and we'd apply those things. And I kind of gave him free reign. Hey, this is the end game. This is what we want to get to. But how we get there, I don't really care how we get there. I just want as much heat as possible when we get there. And our little building only held 100 people. We sold the tickets at I want to say we sold tickets at $15 a pop for that show, and they sold out in like 10 minutes. Like, we released them one night at one of the shows, and they were gone before intermission. All the seats were sold. Uh-huh. So the people wanted to see it, and it was John's first cage match. I think I maybe had one or two cage matches at that point. Right. And it was just, and we're main eventing a show that had all these incredible matches on it, and it was a long night, a 4-hour show. There'd already been a TLC match on there, and just a bunch of other really good stuff. So, what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna go out there and we're just gonna, pull the governor off, and we're gonna just kill each other.
You practically did, man, especially when he took the turnbuckle apart there and he applied it to you, man, and then you turned it back around to him and you started whipping his ass with it. I was like, damn, man. And then everything just started coming into play there towards the end of that match there, and I like how you got out, but they didn't see you get out. You get back in, try to get the ref up, you're like, come on, and then you're trying to get out, and then he gets out and the ref was like, oh, he's out, and he didn't even see you. I was like, oh man, it's just, I love the finish of that match. It was just, it left me wanting more, man. It left me wanting more.
Yeah, some funny details about that match is we had planned to go through the floor of the ring. Like, we had an old WCW ring, and those rings are made completely out of wood. We had some broken boards in it, and we were like, the two of us brainstorming, we thought we could do a bump off the top of the cage, and we could go through the floor of the ring if we took some of the woodwork out from underneath the ring. So right. When I was having my crew set the cage up, a couple of my wrestlers, put some black hoodies on, carried a cage piece out, and then they slipped under the ring, and nobody seen them under the ring. So, during our match, there's actually two guys under the ring during the entire match. And at some point, the manager, Helena, on the floor, tells the guys underneath, okay, it's time. And they're down there with ratchets, taking bolts out of the floor of the ring and taking woodwork out of the floor of the ring. And then we did muscle buster off the I was standing on the top rope, he was on the top of the cage, and we hit, and we were expecting to go through the floor of the ring, and we didn't. We just bounced. Boom. And, all that work and preparation, and it didn't work. And I was so mad.
You had to improvise there, but it turned out great for the finish, though. What you guys had to do to improvise, it turned out great. I definitely enjoyed it. That's one that would have to be one of my favorite matches of yours there against John Moxley. And I pulled up another one that was prior to that with you and him in 2004. I pulled up that match there, and it was where he had his person outside the ring there, and she interfered. She tripped your leg. You're like, So you walk to the back there, and the commentator's like, what's Cody Hawk doing? And then you come back out with another girl and had her at ringside with you to make sure to even up the score there. So just in case, she tries anything on you again, you have backup, which I thought was brilliant, man. I love that because it was just unexpected at the moment there. And that was a pretty good match there, how that ended with the distractions and everyone coming in and just whipping each other's ass there. That was great. And then another match I pulled up was an older match when you were known as, they were referring to you as the dude, the surfer, because of your look and everything that you had there. And John had much longer hair at the time, and he had like blue and white like trunks on, and that was a pretty good match. Just the chemistry, just with you guys in the ring, I enjoyed that because you would pace the match differently when you were in the ring. If you were really wanting to kill each other, go at each other, it was more of a grudge match type feel to it. And if you're in there just wrestling and just how you paced yourself, and I love how you work in the ring there. It's fantastic, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And I pulled up another match here with HWA. I pulled up a lot of HWA stuff. Pepper Parks with Moxley on commentary. I was laughing at Moxley on the commentary there, and Pepper Parks. I was laughing, especially that part when you try to sunset flip him, I believe, and you pulled his trunks down, and the audience got a clear view of almost half his ass there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was really the first time I actually seen Pepper Parks wrestle. I mean, he was great in the ring, what you guys did in that match.
It's kind of crazy because I put that group of guys together and we called them the Moxley Crew. And it was John Moxley, it was Eli Drake, and it was Sami Callihan and Pepper Parks, and then you look at all four of those guys today, and they all have significant careers in the wrestling business.
Yeah, they definitely have, man. I mean, they've grabbed that brass ring there, and they've run with it, man. They've succeeded in professional wrestling. It's
like
great.
I said, I've been really lucky. I had guys like that come through the camp, and I have had plenty other guys. Drew Skills, he's another guy that came through my camp that's had a good amount of success, and another girl named Haley Hatred, and she had a ton of success over in Japan, and then tons of people that never reached that level, but have fulfilled a dream.
Right.
That was their dream. That's what they came to me and said, "This is my dream. I want to be a pro wrestler." And I made them pro wrestlers. And some of them never made it to WWE. They never made it to any of the bigger companies, but they got to be on shows. They got to wrestle in front of hundreds, sometimes thousands of people, and live their dream. And at some point, HWA sort of, kind of went under, and that was the end of it. I kind of got away from training for a minute, and I just, the well sort of went dry on those good talents that were coming through, and it was some years before I ended up with another guy, named Ron Mathis, who reached a pretty good level of success doing death matches at CZW. But then after him, they had some kids that were pretty good and were, possibly gonna, make a little bit of money, but not make great money. And I didn't really have another student that I saw really making it a huge impact in the wrestling world till Shawna Reed came along, and that was I want to say 2015, 16, somewhere in that area. So she's been with me for the last four years, 4.5 years working on her career, and I'm ever hopeful that she's going to be that next one that I can add to that list of people who got a contract and is, gonna be happy and live a well life in the wrestling business.
Right. When I had her on a few weeks ago, I noticed a big difference in her wrestling from a year from when I last talked to her and watching matches of hers up until now. Big difference, man. Big difference. And that match she had with Logan Blackheart, would to me is like my top favorite Shawna Reed match right there, because I just she put it all out there, and he did too, and it was just a great, really great match with a great story behind it and everything with that.
Two of my favorites, like Logan. I mean, obviously you interviewed Ripper Blackheart, so that's Logan's dad.
Yeah.
And I've known Ripper for years, and he came to me, and Logan was 15 years old, and he said, "Hey, will you train my kid?" And I said, "Yeah, man, I totally." And he was a pudgy little 15-year-old kid. He hadn't developed into his adult body yet. He had, he was just a kid, and Shawna, she was, part of that class too. I believe that was when she was coming back from her injury, and and they trained together and they worked together, and they literally became like brother and sister in the wrestling training, and they pushed each other. And then I had an assistant trainer that worked with me a lot. His name was Super Zeta, and he would come back and forth from America to Mexico. He'd come do 6 months here, go back to Mexico for 6 months there, back and forth, and when he came back to training, he would come in and he would train and he would judge people, and he would be like, "This person sucks, I'm not doing anything with them. This person sucks, I'm not doing anything with." But this person, hey, Cody, he would call me Senior Hawk. He'd say, "Senior Hawk, what do you think about this person?" And I would say, that person's got it. They try, they put effort in. He's like, "Okay, I help with them," and.
Yeah.
And he took Shawna under his wing. He took Logan under his wing, and a couple other kids that he took under his wing. But those were his two real main project pieces, and and he gave them a whole nother vocabulary. They were catching a style, a lucha style, plus an American style, which kind of gave them a unique perspective of the wrestling business. Yeah, Victor, he would Super Zeta. He would do his time in Mexico. He would do his time in America. And once he figured out who my good kids were, who he wanted to put his effort into and his time and energy into, and he really worked hard with them, and he gave them a unique opportunity to not only be taught in the American style of wrestling, but they also got to learn a lucha style of wrestling. So for me as a trainer, it was really cool because I had some of my kids that were kind of becoming like hybrids, like they were catching an American style and a lucha style. So they were starting to intermingle these in the things that they were doing in the ring, and I was really digging it because, in today's day and age in wrestling where everything's been done so much, here you got this whole group of kids that's catching a whole new style, and like I said, Logan Blackheart and Shawna Reed, those were his two main projects, and he put more time, effort, and energy into both of them. And when he passed on, it devastated me. It devastated Shawna. It devastated Logan. It devastated our whole company.
Right.
But I'd say, it hit some of us a lot harder than it hit others. And so for me, when we started the thought and the idea of doing this Super Zeta tournament, like, it was a no-brainer to me. I was like, I already knew the final before I even knew who else was going to be in the tournament. I already knew the final, and at that point, I also knew that Logan was just about to be done with wrestling. He's 21, 22 years old now, and he's really, he's eyeball deep in college, and he's a super smart kid, and he's going to put wrestling on the back burner for a while. So I knew he was coming up on the end of it. So it was just like, okay, this is the perfect scenario, and it's all lining up. And it just so happened that Logan's last show was going to be our 1-year anniversary show.
Right.
And, and that was when we were going to do the final to the Super Zeta tournament. So I got a hold of Logan, and I asked him, I laid the whole scenario out for him, and he was like, "God, I would love to do that. I'd be honored to do that." And I told Shawna about it, and and I'd say Zeta's death probably hit her harder than it hit anyone else in our whole company.
Right.
And she was, while she was crying and super sad to be a part of it, she was super happy to be a part of it, and and I gave them plenty of time to tell their story and to do what they wanted to do. And here you go. Here's an empty canvas. You all go out there and you paint the picture and you make Zeta proud. And that's all I want from you. You guys, it's on you. You do what you got to do. I don't even care how long you take. If you take 5 minutes, if you take 10 minutes, if you take 20 minutes, you guys go do what you need to do. And for two people that have been in the business, less than 4 or 5 years, I couldn't have been more happy with them.
That's amazing, man. I'd say, yeah, just looking at that match and looking at everything everything they threw at each other in that match, and just from start to finish, it told a really good story. And that's why I like that match there, because of the story behind it and everything that went in with it to produce that match there. Just had to be one of my top favorite ones. And I'll be able to, here pretty soon, I'll be able to watch that match along with a lot of other ones there on the Origins 2 DVD, because it's, as I'm speaking to you right now, it's being shipped to me. So I'm happy.
I saw the message earlier.
Yeah, man, that was amazing. I was hit up there and it was like, hey, it's being shipped out to you, and I was like,
when you dive into that one and you get to the second disc, you'll have to let me know what you think of me and Drew's skills.
Okay.
Because Drew is another one of my, I call him a kid, but he's been in the business, damn near 20 years now, and and he's one of those guys that he didn't quite make it to the level of a WWE or an AEW, but he's made a hell of a name for himself in the wrestling business. There's a promotion out of Indiana called Heroes and Legends. Uh-huh. He held their heavyweight title for, I don't know, some ridiculous amount of time. And if you look up in record books of title reigns, he's like number 3 or 4 in longest title reigns, world title reigns ever. So, and him and I did a tremendous storyline in there that lasted 8 months. 8 months of him just showing up, beating my brains in, and I never saw him coming every time he'd just show up.
Yeah.
And we did the story with Shawna breaking up with me and leaving me, and so Cody Hawk just literally hit rock bottom, and Drew Skills was there to just destroy me. And when you watch the match, send me a message, give me a little feedback, and tell me now that you know a little bit behind the story, how the end product comes across.
Yeah, I definitely am, because watching FGW Shockwave, man, that's amazing, because I got furloughed back last month, and I'm sitting here like, what am I gonna do with my time? I got this there, but when I'm away from this, I like to sit back and I like to watch some TV, watch some wrestling. And just here lately, like 2 months ago, I just felt that WWE just wasn't cutting it for me. It's like I needed wrestling. I needed something for me. So first place I looked was on YouTube. I pulled up my YouTube channel. Who am I subscribed to? At the top, sitting right there, man, FGW. And I said, you know what? I've watched it, but not watched it close like I did. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to start it from the beginning, episode 1, and hit all through 24. So I sat there, I binge watched it in between fighting over the TV with my daughter trying to watch Frozen. So basically, yeah, I sat there and I binge watched the FGW, and it's like I really sat down. You know how you can watch wrestling, but if you really sit down and really watch it, you're taken in by it. And I was taken in by FGW Shockwave because I've never seen anything like this before. And I knew of like how FGW had a shaky start coming, being able to run there in Hamilton because of the petition that was signed that was made for FGW to run there. And Robin Nelson, I've been friends with him for the last few years, or about 2 or 3 years actually. And he hit me up and said, "Hey, can you take a look at this and sign it?" And I looked at it, and it was for FGW for running in Hamilton. So I read it and I looked and I was like, you know what? This town wants wrestling. They're going to get wrestling. I'm putting my name on the list. So I signed a petition for you guys to run.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And excuse me, when put my name on that, and then when you guys were able to run and stuff, I felt like I was like, I did something for a really good promotion, and what the talent has there, and yourself and everybody, and it's taken off. And looking at the product, you only think it's been running for years, but only a year, because of how well it is. It's taken me back to the old cable access days, where the studio days of like an NWA, where Friday, you know how Friday and Saturday night you'd be flipping through channels, and after the news you're like, hey, what's on? And all of a sudden you got local wrestling. It's like you sit there and watch it, man. I love that. Feeling and atmosphere of it, man.
Well, that's what I grew up on. I grew up on studio wrestling and watching that, and and being a part of HWA, we did studio wrestling at HWA, and I worked for OVW, and they did studio wrestling there. So like that's just how I came up in the business. That's how I learned. That's what my bread and butter. So and I knew that's what I wanted to do at FGW. Once we got it there, it was just a matter of finding all the right pieces to the puzzle. Because we started out in February of last year, and we didn't have the capability of putting together a TV show. We didn't have camera equipment. We didn't have people to edit the footage. We didn't have anything. We recorded some matches here and there on a little bit. But then I know you just did one of these interviews with Michael Neary.
Yes.
And when he came on board, he brought his camera equipment and his knowledge of editing skills and stuff. But at that point, he had never done wrestling. So, he's learning on the fly too, and 90% of my roster had never done any form of TV or studio type wrestling, So everybody was just learning on the fly. So we didn't actually start doing the Shockwave episodes till we were like 6 months into, already running shows.
Right.
So it was just, it was a huge learning curve for everybody. And, but thankfully all the pieces fell into place, and everything has happened the way the way I envisioned it, and that was really my only goal ever when we started FGW was let's get this up and running. Let's make this a viable TV show. We'll start out on YouTube or cable access or something that doesn't cost us any money. We're going to build a fan base. We're going to build a following. And, once we get our numbers where we want them to be, then we're going to go approach a network, and we're going to see if a network will take us. Even if they don't pay us, if we can get on network TV, even if it's at 12 o'clock on a Friday night, like, I'll take it. It's a foot in the door. At HWA, we started out that same way, and eventually we made it on to the America One network, and that put us in 148 cities coast to coast, and we were getting paid for it. I mean, I was getting, I owned HWA at the time, and we were getting checks, every week because of the commercials that were in our TV show.
Right.
And, and so that's just been my goal, is to get FGW to that point. I'm old now, and, I still got a lot of miles left in the tank, but there's also another part of me. It's like, damn, I am ready to move to Florida and live that retired lifestyle and push Shawna to the moon and just do old people stuff for myself. So that was what I told Brian, the owner of FGW. I'm like, hey, we're gonna get here. We're gonna do this. So these are the goals. This is what I want to do. But at some point, I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
I booked all of FGW shows all the way up to the Origins show. And then I let somebody else, Ripper Blackheart, took over at Origins. And I was going to let him run the show for the next 6 months because I knew at some point I would be leaving and somebody was going to have to take over my job. And there was only a handful of people there that I trusted with stories. And, Jackson and Ripper and a few other people that have been around for, 17, 18, 19, 20 years. those are the people I feel comfortable putting the pencil in their hand and the paper in front of them to come up with a plan and stories and angles and matches. And then, unfortunately, a month into him writing shows, we get shut down. The coronavirus takes over the world, and we're done, and we're out. And I was going to take back over writing the shows in August, but at this point, the word I just got today was that the gyms in Ohio are not going to open until I think the end of May. I think May 29th. Right. And then the word I'm getting from some people around that are related, somehow loosely acquainted with the athletic commission in Ohio, is that we may not be able to run shows till at least 5 weeks after that. So that puts us into the middle of July before we can run shows. And I truthfully don't know if we'll make it, because we have a building that we have to pay rent on. We have to pay rent on that building every month, regardless of whether there are shows going on or not. Right. And right now we're several $1,000s already in the hole for back rent money, because that's just the way it is, And thank God the landlords are being cool with us, and they're not charging us full price, they're only charging us half rent, but still, at the end of the day, they need their money to make their mortgage payment. So, it's just, we've just been put in a horrible situation, and and it's not just us; it's all of wrestling. Yeah. We saw how many people got let go from WWE in the past few weeks. I guarantee you that half those people that got let go, if we would be doing business as normal, they wouldn't have got let go. Yeah. WWE is restructuring and changing too, because just like all of us, they're trying to keep as much money as they can. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true, man. I mean, yeah, the independent wrestling business, man, is taking a hit, and they're doing a lot of stuff on social media, trying to let people know it's like, hey, we have not gone anywhere. We're still here. With talent cutting promos, or as with FGW's been doing, man, you guys been doing some interesting stuff there with the social distancing video, man. I got a kick out of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Neri who does the editing for us, and then I have a couple other people that do editing work for us. And it's just like I've given each one of them a project. I came up with an idea. The Don't Rush video, that was all Shawna. She came up with that concept. She's been playing with TikTok a lot, and she got that, and I was like, I love it, man. And guess what? That's your project. You put that one together, because she's one of the people that's been helping with video editing. I've always told all my students, hey, if you're going to be in the wrestling business, you might as well learn how to do as many jobs as possible. Because the WWE might not hire you to be a wrestler, but they might hire you to be a video editor. They might hire you to be a referee. They might hire you to run music. Who knows? So learn as many jobs in the wrestling business as you possibly can, because you get in where you fit in, man. And so, that was her video, and then there was the social distance fight video that we did. Yeah. Which I thoroughly loved. I don't know if you got to see this week's video, which was Brian's Daydream.
Oh yeah.
That one I came up with one night. I was heavily intoxicated, and I said, man, I got this idea for a video, and it's a dream sequence. So I got out a piece of paper, and I started writing, and I started with Brian in the center, and then I connected me to Brian, and I connected somebody else to me, and I just kept connecting people to people, and eventually it looked like a giant spider web. And then I gave it to Ripper, because he's the one writing the shows. I gave it to him, and I said, hey, I want to do this video, and I need you to help me write it. And and he put together all the verbiage that was used in it, all the scenarios and everything. And then one of my other kids, Ronnie, he put the video together. So between Shawna and Ronnie and David and Neri, I've got a hell of a good little video team put together now. And luckily when we filmed Shockwave, It's filmed on Friday nights, and Friday Night Fury is a 2-hour show, but Shockwave is only a 1-hour show. So there are lots of matches that we record, and they still have commentary put in them, but they're dark matches. Yeah. And so thank God we had all that footage in the vault, so to speak, and we've been able to keep throwing up different kind of best of episodes every week. But I was like, man, the best of episodes are great, but we need current footage. We need new stuff, new content every week, stuff that just is intriguing, that's different. So I'm like, we got to do these group videos, and truthfully, I've been having a blast with them, and they've been coming out great. I think I love them. Every one of them that we've done, I've totally loved, and I'm actually. I've made the comment to a few people, like, I'm actually having more fun with these videos than actual wrestling shows.
They're fun, man. It's something different. It's something different. It's you get to see a different type of side of the talent from FGW, and it's neat how that you're doing something creative, and it's keeping fresh in people's minds when they're going through their news feed and looking at, oh, FGW, what's this? And they click on it and watch it. They're laughing, they're liking, commenting, and just giving that feedback. And that's, in a way, that's another interaction with fans too, which is great.
I have another plan in my head now. I don't know if we'll be able to pull it off or not, but me being the trainer there at FGW and being the guy who's always bitching at people to watch their diets and go to the tanning bed, I kind of want to do a video where we drop in on each one of the wrestlers where they're either eating terrible food or they're drinking too much, and a little window pops up right over their shoulder, and it's me going, I wouldn't do that if I were you, like, nah, like, so.
That's pretty good. Or you do something where they're sitting there and they're getting ready to eat something or do something that they're not supposed to, and you come flying in through the door or something, and you're like, hey, it's just like, what did I tell you?
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be definitely great. I've enjoyed the product, and I can't wait. I'm itching like yourself there and everybody else for new FGW, and I just gonna have to sit back and wait, and like everybody else. And I've enjoyed everything from it, man. I mean, there's nothing more I could say. I mean, production wise, storyline wise, wrestling wise, just a great product. And I like FGW Shockwave every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on their YouTube channel there, Future Great Wrestling. And
appreciate you plugging us and putting us over. And like I said, kudos to my whole video team, because we put all that together every week on a budget of about 37 cents.
Really? Yeah, Michael Neary told me when I talked to him this week, when I told him, I said I enjoy everything that you do with putting everything together and stuff, and he works like a madman when he's doing that, between teaching and doing everything for FGW. It's just it's crazy. I mean, it's just he does a lot, man. He does a lot, and you're lucky to have him, man. You were definitely lucky to have him.
I'm constantly putting him over and trying to thank him and make him feel good about everything there, because right now, this shutdown is bad, but losing him would be crippling to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because with him learning everything on the fly, and just as progression, what I've noticed with the progression of FGW and stuff, it's gotten better and better and better, and it's going to keep getting better and better, because with what he does and stuff, and it's everything just works so well together there, because with wrestlers and with you behind the scenes, and just with Michael editing everything and stuff, it's a well-oiled machine that's doing really good.
Thank you very much, man. I'm glad you like it.
You're welcome. And when I was looking up footage of you and stuff, looking up the matches that we talked about earlier, I came upon your induction to the Color Alley Club, and I was watching that there with John Moxley coming out and doing a speech and stuff. I love the speech that he gave for you, and I loved how he's like, well, I owe him this much though. Since I'm up here, we'll just call it even. I thought that was great. Really great speech. And then you came up, and I loved the speech that you gave, and thanking everyone, and just telling a little bit about where your journey started to at that point there. I thought it was really great, man, and I just want to say congratulations on having an award like that, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. Like Cauliflower Alley, I don't know how much you know about Cauliflower Alley, but it's a really amazing organization. They take care of wrestlers, man. Wrestlers and fighters, boxers, if they fall on some sort of hard times, be it for medical reasons or drugs and alcohol or whatever. When somebody starts to spiral down a bad road, Cauliflower Alley likes to throw a lifeline out and help people get back on their feet, get back going in the right direction. And I've been going to Cauliflower Alley out in Las Vegas. That's it's a year-round company, but they have their big convention out in Vegas every year in the spring, which we, by the way, were supposed to be at a couple weeks ago, but it got canceled, and it's now been postponed till September. But you yourself doing a little wrestling media stuff, it's something I highly recommend because it's a few days of number one, it's Las Vegas, but number two, there are wrestlers there from all over the world. There are wrestlers there that you grew up watching. There are wrestlers there that you've never heard of. It's just a couple of days of eating and mingling and making connections and shaking hands and thanking people for their time in the business, and it's really fun and really cool. And they gave me that award, and the Cauliflower Alley's been around since the 60s, and they had only given that award out 2 other times at that point. I was the third person to win that award. In 50 years, I was the third person to win that trainer's award. The other winners was Ron Hutchins, who trained Edge and Christian, some of those other people that came out of Canada, and then the other one was Steve Kern, who ran FCW out of Florida and produced a lot of the early NXT talent and stuff. And then there's me, and I was just like, wow, how did I get here? Like, how did I end up in this room? How do I end up on a stage with John Moxley presenting me the award, J.J. Dillon announcing me, the table right directly in front of me has Jim Ross at it, Jerry Lawler at it, Jerry Briscoe at it. The table behind him has Rob Van Dam and The Godfather and Greg Valentine, and I'm just like, how did I get here? Like, and when I gave my speech, it was a couple times during the thing that the whole crowd popped for me and gave me applause. And then when it was all said and done, and I said my final thank you and left the stage, all 500 people in the room stood up and gave me a standing ovation. And I was just like, my mom and dad were there. They had never been to Vegas before, so it was really cool to get them out there. And I had my own personal table there at the thing, and sitting at my table, was Shawna, of course, and my mom and dad, John Moxley, Eli Drake, Sean Casey, and a couple of my friends from real close wrestling friends, and like at one point in the night during the dinner portion of it, Kevin Sullivan made his way over to the table, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and right in front of my mom and dad just put me over like $1 million, just talked about how great my speech was and how humble I was and all this. And I was just like, I was almost in tears. I'm like, you kind of live for those moments, for somebody to put you over like that in front of your mom and dad, because I'm just one of those people who's like kind of lived my life trying to make my mom and dad happy and trying to make them, I know they're proud of me, but I always want to make them more proud of me. So it was just one of those awesome moments,
Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's amazing that you got the award, and your family and friends and just people that you've helped, like Eli Drake and John Moxley in their wrestling career, was there to share that with you. That's amazing, man. I love that, man. Congratulations again on that.
Thanks so much, man.
You're welcome. And talking with a lot of FGW talent, they've said over the last few weeks, they've told me, it's like, you need to get Cody on. You need to get Cody on. And that all of them told me, you need to reach out to Cody Hawk and get him on your show, because he has some stories. When we're with us wrapping this up here, Jackson Breeze told a funny ribbing story with you and him with chocolate candies. You probably know which one I'm talking about there. You watched the episode, I bet. Now, what kind of funny rib have you been in or been on the receiving end of that comes to mind there?
I've been very fortunate and lucky that nobody really ever ribs me, because they know I will destroy them. I have, and the ribs that I used to play back in the late 90s and early 2000s, I can't really play those same kind of ribs anymore, because I don't know, we're just in a different day and age and time, and I'm not going to go to jail for drugging somebody, or I'm not going to have somebody sue me because I put X-Lax in their dinner or something. I want to all the time, but I'm just not. It's just a different day and age. But
yeah,
back then when I was ribbing people all the time, X-Lax pills and what is the other shit called? Why can't I think what it's called? Ambisol, the stuff you put on your teeth or gums for toothaches. I used to carry a bottle of that in my bag all the time, and I'd just walk around the locker room and I'd put Ambisol on the rims of people's water bottles or their straws or their drinks, and I'd go do it nonchalantly and go sit back down in my chair and then just watch people like pull on their lips and question what's going on. Why does their face feel funny? And that rib that you're talking about with Jackson, man, that was one of the pretty epic ones where we dosed I don't know, probably at least 10 to 15 or so wrestlers with Dulcolax chocolate chew candies that we hid in the wrappers of Hershey's chocolate chunk candies. And we had gotten a hotel, and we had gotten all the rooms for all the boys, and we had all the key cards before we gave them out to all the boys. So we just went and put two Dulcolax chocolate chews dressed up in Hershey's chocolate chunk wrappers on all the pillows. And we told a couple select people, hey, don't eat the chocolate because it's not chocolate. And but everybody did, and then the next day we had another show. The next day we had done a 5-day tour of Ohio, and the next day it was like, a standing line at the shitter because everybody was hating it. We just giggling over in the corner.
That is great, man. I was like, I wouldn't think of Jackson Breeze doing something like that, but when he's with Cody Hawk, anything's possible.
Yeah, we had a Christmas party at HWA. I want to say maybe about 2001 or 2. No, it was maybe about 2003 or 4. We had a Christmas party, and I brought 24 chocolate chip cookies. And I just walked around and whispered in a couple people's ears, don't eat the cookies. Because they had like 3 boxes of laxatives in it.
That is great. Damn, that is great, man. That is great. I love it. I want to thank you for taking time out tonight and coming on here and talking with me. And sorry about that audio technical difficulty, which people looking back at this, you won't see, not unless on a blooper reel later down the road on the Everett Lee Show, because I got plenty of those, man. I got plenty of those.
Well, if they do, they'll just see a lot of me doing sign language to you because we're experiencing technical difficulties.
Yeah, it's that mixer there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something with it there. I'm gonna have to rearrange some stuff anyway. I may after episode 200, right before 200, rearrange some stuff around here anyway. So some stuff may change, but
I suggest getting on some of those bidding sites. Every now and again, you'll see a mixer float through on one of those bidding sites. We ended up getting a mixer for FGW for $22. So, it just, sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah. I've had this mixer here, this mini inbox. I've had it since 2014. I've had this Sterling audio mic since 2014, and I love this mic and that condenser. I guess I have a habit of, when I have something, I use it until it breaks down, especially like a vehicle. I had an old 84 Chevy Cavalier, man. I tell you, I drove that thing until it could not shift no more. I drove it till my dad said, "Son, you drove it till the damn tires fell off," which they almost did. Then that's when I just
earlier this year I had to part ways with my old Chevy Silverado pickup truck that had well over 200,000 miles on it and had been to about 35 or 40 states all around the country. And it was sad to see it go up on a flatbed and drive away, but it was just, she wasn't reliable no more, and I couldn't be taking 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 hour road trips and worry about getting stranded on the highway in the middle of the night or some back road out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah,
definitely. But I get a product, I use the hell out of it until I'm pretty much done with it. But I do again want to thank you for coming on here. And where can people find more of Cody Hawk on social media at?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. It's I think it's wrestler.codyhawk. You can find me on Twitter. It's Cody FN Hawk, all one word. I don't use the Twitter too much though. You can find me on Instagram. That one is Cody Hawk 1, ONE, Cody Hawk 1. You can go to YouTube and you can look up the Future Great Wrestling YouTube channel. There's a lot of Cody Hawk on there. You can just YouTube Cody Hawk. You'll find all kinds of stuff on me there. That's pretty much about it for the social media and ways to find me there. You can always touch base with me on any of those platforms, and and I'm generally not one of those guys that just doesn't respond to people. I generally give people a response unless I deem them to be an idiot, and then you won't have to worry about that because I'll block you, and then you won't be a part of my system anymore anyway. But if anybody's listening or watching and they wanna check out some of my stuff or reach out, got questions about the wrestling business or training or what it takes to be a wrestler or advice or anything like that, then definitely contact me, and we'll see how that goes.
Nice. I do want to mention here that you got some merch on Pro Wrestling Tees there, don't you? You got some pretty cool shirts there.
Pro Wrestling Tees / Cody Hawk. There's probably about I don't know, probably like at least 10 to 12 designs on there for T-shirts. I do have some other T-shirts that are not on there that you just gotta message me if you want those shirts. Just because I just didn't put those on Pro Wrestling Tees. So yeah, if you want some Cody Hawk merch, reach out to me or reach out to Pro Wrestling Tees and buy a shirt.
Nice. And that's it for the Everett Lee Show and Podcasting Network, your top source for independent podcasting. Head over to podcasty.net for great content and great shows over on the website. Hit them up on Facebook, Podcasty Network. Give them a thumbs up and a follow. Send them a tweet over on Twitter at PodcastCNet. Subscribe to their YouTube channel for video podcast over on Podcasty Network and on Twitch, Podcast City Network. You want more Everett Lee? Then hit me up on Facebook. Give me a thumbs up and a follow, Everett Lee Show. Twitter at the Everett_Lee. Instagram, Everett Lee Show. And audio portions of this podcast and previous release podcast, head over to YouTube, The Everett Lee Show, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Podbean, and iHeartRadio. Everyone have a good evening and a good week, and I'll see everyone again on another episode of The Everett Lee Show.